Dilip, when I saw that in 2012, when you were captured in Afghanistan, that you were actually on your 10th visit to the country, I actually thought to myself that so many people would be scared to go to Afghanistan even once. How often, when you were doing these trips, did you weigh up the risks that you were taking compared to the benefits that you were bringing to the people of Afghanistan?
You know, once I started traveling, it just became more of a habit. You know, you have to weigh out the risks every single time you go and check into the local sources and also the international sources in terms of the security risks. But, you know, once you do that, it just becomes a part of the routine that you follow.
What was the work you were doing there?
It was community development, and specifically I was doing a lot of training for the local medical professionals in the country.
So I understand the manner of your capture was rather mundane almost, that a group of Taliban fighters came up to your vehicle and then took you hostage as well as two of your Afghan colleagues. Once you realized what was happening...
Yeah, that's correct.
Once you realized what was happening, how were you able to just understand the situation you were in and the fact that these guys are the enemies of the United States, you're an American citizen, they're armed, you're a civilian? What was going through your head?
Well, when something like that happens, you figure that's pretty much the end of your life. You're not necessarily thinking about ways of a situation like that, you know, getting any better, or you're getting out of that hostage situation. But it's only a few hours into the whole situation I realized this could turn into a hostage situation than what is more common, which is just you know, roadside robbery, where they just loot you for what you have and kill you and move on to the next target.
And in terms of communicating with your captors, was it a matter of keeping quiet because you didn't want to speak out of turn, or did you feel ever comfortable enough to actually start any sort of conversation rather than just responding to commands?
In the beginning, it was just responding to commands. And my medical colleague was there who was able to translate between English and the local Pashto language that they were speaking. So in the beginning, I just kind of answered any questions that they had directly for me. But then as the time went on, I got a bit more comfortable in having conversations with them.
And did you ever get the impression that they saw you as some sort of representative of their enemy, the United States, or they realized immediately that you were doing work for the benefit of Afghans?
That switch from realizing that I might actually be there to help them might have taken a while. In the beginning, it's always whatever category that they want to put you in, right? And the biggest category, as you said, is just seeing me as an outsider. And once you're an outsider, you're no good. You're their enemy.
And what did they talk to you about? Did they ever talk about the political situation, the military fight that they're involved in? Did they ever try to justify their reasons for taking the fight to the Afghan government and NATO troops?
It was not, although there were conversations like that, it was not, it didn't come across like it was scripted or directed in that sense. But many of those innuendos or opinions kind of came to surface as we were talking about different things about life and culture, religion, faith, you know, many mundane matters of the day.
And from your point of view, did you ever feel at all comfortable to try to explain why foreign troops were in their country? Because even talking about that could get you into trouble, I presume, because it's completely contradictory to their philosophy, of course.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that in this situation, you know, I've been in situations where I've talked to many tribal leaders, been to rural communities, and have these sort of conversations about culture and as Americans, what we're doing in Afghanistan. But incidentally, in this situation, that didn't even come up. It was almost like they were pretty much telling us, or me mainly, what are you guys doing here, and what do you think that you can make us better by having your military here? So it was never a conversation. It was just like, this is what we think. We think that what you guys are doing is wrong, and we're not here to hurt you, but you're here to hurt us, that type of stuff. So it was very evident what their belief or their ideas was about American military and the NATO in general.
When you returned to the United States, I presume people were completely intrigued by your situation, that you had been held for almost a week by a group that is portrayed in the West almost as being animals. And yet you had lived with them and seen that they're actually, I presume, like so many other people in the world, they just have one particular cause that is different to other people's causes.
Yeah, I would say that your portrayal of that intrigue is definitely true. And in my case, I think it was heightened also due to the death of a Navy SEAL that was shot in my rescue. And that kind of put the story out there a little bit more than it would have. As you can imagine, there are a handful of these sort of hostage situations that happen on maybe every few years, and it certainly happens much more to the locals than it happens to the expats. So they're definitely gave me a sense of an inside look at what these guys are about and how they work and how intricate their network is, and how they go on in this cycle of violence that they're just gotten so used to over the last few decades now.
How long did the entire rescue operation last? Were you able to get a handle on the duration of it? Because quite often in that kind of situation, sometimes people say as if time passes in slow motion.
Yeah, it was definitely not going in slow motion for me. It definitely was a very sort of heightened situation when the troops arrived, and perhaps the entire rescue itself probably didn't take more than a couple of minutes, although the from their perspective, from the military perspective, it was probably a 24-hour routine rescue operation where they had to do a lot of intelligence and get me back to a safe base. But the rescue itself, where I was taken from where I was being held in the room to getting me out of the room, was probably less than a couple of minutes.
Has it in any way, in a rather strange fashion perhaps, made you feel even closer to Afghanistan and the trouble that that country has been going through for so long now?
Yeah, I think I feel that way mainly because of the interactions that I've had in the country. At that time of my hostage situation, I'd already been traveling in and out of the country for 4 years. As you said before, 10 trips to the country, made a lot of friends, traveled to about 10 different provinces out of the 34 total, seen a lot of the country. And because of those deeper interactions, and even due to some of the conversations that I've had with these, insurgency factions, so it was just not just Taliban. There were Al-Qaeda. At that time, ISIS hadn't shown much of a presence back in 2012, although now it's pretty big presence in Afghanistan. There were some Haqqani guys in the group. I sort of feel that there's more to the story than what we tend to hear just from the superficial nature of bad guys fighting the good guys. For some of these guys, it's their life mission, and they drive it also from a point of religious intolerance and their faith-based thinking, if you will, and the only way they've known how to fight against something that they don't believe in.
Dilip, thank you so much indeed. Really very interesting to hear your story, and obviously with the happy outcome, even better.